What's going on, guys? You're well here, and welcome to Confabulate, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything. I'm your host, Will Sanchez. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. And today, guys, we have, should I say Adrian or AJ?
You can say AJ is fine. You know me as
Because I know you as AJ, not
That's
Adrian.
Fine.
AJ, you're Garcia, right?
Yes.
I'm also Garcia. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I knew that.
I'm Yoel Sanchez Garcia.
Yeah. I was always because when we get your guys' like green sheet for all it, and if it's on there, if it's your name registered for school, it's on there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's when it always cuts off the Garcia because it's at the end.
Yes.
So that's why it was always like Yoel Sanchez. I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah. Gabe is Garcia too. Gabe Coaster.
Yeah.
He's Garcia.
Well, and then I've had his older brother Isaiah.
Yes.
Was one of my guys, and then their older brother. He never was actually an athlete of mine, but he was always around. I knew who he was, so he knew who I was. Like I've actually given him a ride home and everything. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Cool. They're a good family. I like that. I love those guys.
Cool. Well, this whole season is dedicated to the teachers, educators, coaches, and people who have just left an impact in my life. It's all for them, and I knew immediately I wanted to have you on because you're one of my favorite coaches for several reasons. But the first thing that I wanted to mention is it's kind of a long story, so you're gonna have to listen for a minute.
Are you trying to make me cry? What's going on here?
No, I'm not.
Wait, hold on. Am I your first guest for this season, or did you have somebody else?
You're my second.
All right, cool.
My first one is Miss Gardea, my science teacher.
Yeah, all right.
But you're my second one that I've recorded so far.
Awesome.
So this is my story. Hear me out.
Yeah.
So it was my senior year, and you're already my coach for a few years. You and Miss Jordan were my first coaches when I was, I think, a freshman when I first started.
Yeah.
So then my senior year, and I remember coming up to you. I'm like, hey, coach, Mondays I got SLU crew. I might be coming in a little late on Mondays. And Wednesdays I coach tennis.
Right.
And then I remember you were like, I don't mind. That's okay with me. But as long as like when you come to practice, you give 100% and you work really hard and you just give it all you got. That's all that matters to me.
Right.
So that whole season, I never really told you this, but that whole season I was like, I got to make Coach AJ proud. I got to give it everything I have in every track meet, every practice, and I got to make him proud. And I worked really hard that whole season. I gave it everything that I have. And fast forward to the track and field awards. And when you gave me the coaches award, that was like the most validating thing ever because it was like, fuck, like I worked hard for this and he gave me the coaches award. And I wasn't expecting it at all, but that blew me out of blew my mind. So that was my first question for you is like, I always wanted to know like why you chose me for the coaches award.
Well, that one got a little personal. And part of that is because some people were against me giving you that award because you weren't there all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? But to me, it was more than that because one, you had been an athlete for me for a few years. Two, I always knew when you came in the weight room, you worked. When you came to practice, you worked, right? So you had done everything I had ever asked you to do. So for me, it was a no-brainer, right? Even though like, yeah, okay, he battled a couple pains and injuries, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Shit like that just happens. Ooh, is that cool?
We can cuss, say anything you want. Yes.
Yes. But, it was easy because, as things, but you always kept in touch. Coach, just a reminder, SLU Cruise this day. Hey, I'm not going to go to tennis. I'll be at Pride or whatever. Right. But you were always staying in touch. And so like I said, like not every coach understood that. And they didn't understand like the relationship that me and you had developed over the years and through that season. So my big thing, anytime I give out anything like that, it's always like, is it more than just the sport? Because I remember one day I practiced, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of times where I let you guys like warm up on your own. I'll let you do whatever on your own. And I just sit there and I just watch. And when I'm working with students individually, I'm still paying attention to what's going on. But you were one of those people that had always kind of taken it upon yourself to make sure that, our camp was one big family and you were one of those people that made sure that everybody knew that, right? Like, so you would go out of your way to help somebody if they were struggling, even though, you may or may not have been the most athletic or the greatest jumper we've had or athlete that we had, but you didn't care. You were there to give everything you had. And then you were also willing to go out of your way and show people and, bring people up, encourage them and whatever. Even if you were having a down day, I remember there was one day specifically. I think it was a track meet at North High, and you had a really bad day jumping, but you were still encouraging other athletes, like whether it was the girls or whether it was the guys. It didn't matter who it was. If you saw them struggling, you would still encourage them. And that's one of the biggest reasons why you got that, was because you were that person. So like, it was one of those things where if there was one random day where myself or Coach Jordan or Coach Sam, because she was helping us, if we weren't there, I didn't have to worry about it, because somebody like you or somebody like a Nayla or, people like that, didn't matter how good or bad you were athletically, you were just going to step up and like, hey, coach wants us to do this. We got to make sure we do it. Coach wanted us to do that. You were going to lead the charge for it. And you were always going to make sure everybody kind of rallied around each other and stayed like a family. So like, track's a big family, but our camp was like more of a family inside of that family. Even though there was 50 of us at the time, we were still kind of like a little tight-knit family within the whole 200 unit, track team that we had. So it was like I said, it was a very easy decision for that. A lot of times I struggle with a coach's award because sometimes we just don't have people like that, or sometimes we have more than one person. Like I remember there was one year where we had like 6 people that could have got it. And that's just because, they weren't all great athletes. 2 of them were, but those 2 great athletes are going to get a different award. So then now I got these other, kids. Okay, what are we going to do with these kids? And sometimes I get outvoted by the other coaches. Sometimes the coach just says, hey, we're going to give it to somebody else just because whatever. And then, but I've been fortunate enough to where like Coach Mendoza would always have my back. And like he said, hey, if that's what you feel, that's the way you feel. Coach Ibarra, I think, took a little longer to warm up to me as a coach, to give me some freedom. Because I remember when I came on, you can tell he didn't know me very well. I only ran track for him specifically like one year when he was the head coach when I was a senior, and I was a part-time track athlete, right? Because I wasn't living at home. I was trying to graduate high school. I had a job. I was commuting from Hollister to North County because I moved from Salinas to Hollister for family issues. Yeah. And then, so I was practicing once a week competing. So it's not like he was always involved with me as an athlete like he was with a couple other of my friends. So when Coach Mendoza said that, he found an extra coach, I kind of felt Coach Ibarra was a little standoffish and was kind of just trying to figure me out for a couple of years. But then there was, in the later years right before he decided to leave, he just kind of just gave me free range. So, but like I said, when it comes to certain coaching decisions like that, like been very lucky to be able to, like, if I want an award for somebody, I get to have it, and that one, that one went to you, and thank God, because like I felt, with everything that you were doing with the SLU crew, coaching tennis, and then with your everybody, your family and everything, I just, I felt you deserved it. So
yeah. Well, thank you. Like out of all the awards or medals or diplomas for college and high school, I see that coach's award and I'm like, I still get goosebumps to this day. And I got the track scholarship too, which also a lot of people like weren't okay with. I found out afterwards.
Well, the thing is, so the Sukimura, because you got the Sukimura track athlete, right?
Yeah.
So the Suki award, that has nothing to do with your track abilities.
Yes.
That has everything to do with you as a person. And you had to do a letter, I believe.
We had to write an essay.
Right. So we as far as a coaching standpoint is we will be asked our opinion on you, but whatever you wrote in that essay is what got you that scholarship, because that's a whole nother, that is a separate entity from the high school. That was something that Brendan Sukimura, I knew him not very well. He was a couple years younger than me in high school, but I always remember he did have a smile on his face. He was always working really hard. his dad. You've met his dad, right? He was always out there taking pictures. Great kid, great family, and unfortunately, what happened to him was very unfortunate. And I know, I personally knew all parties involved in that. But the governing board that hands out those awards, all they do is they ask us our opinion. And sometimes they don't even ask that. So it's just, whatever went into that essay, made them believe that you deserved it. So that's all you, man. Yeah. So whoever says that, oh, why did he get it? Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Remember, none of that stuff has anything to do with athletic ability. It all comes down to what basically you as a person and whatever you put in that essay. Because I don't know what those essays are even about. Like, I never read them. So I think I did write a letter of recommendation.
Yeah.
I wrote your letter of recommendation, but that's it. And that's how that goes.
Yeah, I think the question was like, what qualities, like what Brendan Sukimura qualities do you bring to the team that he had? Like they would give a little explanation about him, and then you would have to say like what you bring to the team and how much the team means to you and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what I remember. But that's what I would tell people too. That it was all about the essay. That's how I always thought about it, because going to those awards throughout the years, I saw people winning awards that were like the number one athletes and this and that, and that's what I thought it was. Right. But it was all about the essays. And you mentioned something earlier, but I forgot to say that I was never like the greatest. I was probably like 6th or 7th out of the guys, but I worked really hard. I think I ended the season triple jumping maybe like 37 and 38.
Yeah, we had come a long way from that.
I used to triple jump off the 20 board. Yeah. And that's all that mattered to me. I remember I really wanted to do a Saturday event, and I finally got my Saturday event. Yeah. I didn't do good at all. I think I was barely getting to 30.
Well,
but I was
also,
still,
when you do those Saturday events, it could be very intimidating because of who's there.
But I was still very honored to be there. And I remember texting you afterwards. I'm like, I know I didn't do that good, but I'm just happy to be here. Yeah. So those are the athletes that I love. And I'm excited because I finished a meeting last week with Francisco Cornejo, Coach Cornejo.
Coach Cornejo. He messaged me, said you were going to help out with cross country and track, maybe?
Both. Okay, I wanted this spring, but I moved and a lot of big changes happened in my life, so I couldn't do it. But I had a meeting with him last week. I'm supposed to get some paperwork and fill it out, my fingerprint. They want me to start with summer conditioning for cross country, and I'll do cross country and then track. And he mentioned if you come back, we could work for jumps, and he already has a lot of ideas.
I would love to come back and coach jumps. That's my plan at the moment. I gotta talk to the wife and my son just turned 1 in April, so by next season it may be tough. Plus I'm coaching football, so coaching football is not an issue. It's what happens once we get into like our spring field work for football. So like the back half of track season will get really tight. Just like, but I've done it before. It just gets really tight. So I would need like someone there. If I were to do it, I would need someone to run basically jumps camp until Thursdays when I can come to the meets. And then I probably wouldn't be to do any invitationals because of the baby. But it'll be tough. Like I said, I would love to do it. I love doing it. I missed it this year, these last 2 years really, because the COVID year, I wasn't around. Excuse me. But, we had like a couple people were competing, Lorraine specifically. And it was with Lorraine during spring break. I think I showed up twice to help her. And then it was like, hey, Lorraine, take a video, send it to me. I'll critique it and I'll give you notes. And that's how she got through that last season, which was really tough because it sucks when I couldn't be there every day. But, COVID, we had literally just had the baby. Yeah. So it was all just very, very a tough thing to do. But, now she's flourishing at Hartnell. So she looks great. She tells me anytime she does a new PR and, so we keep in touch. But, I mean, it's great. Coaching next season, like I said, I would love it to. I have to talk to Coach Cornejo about it. And, obviously, as I said, I got to talk to the wife about it. Hopefully I can. The baby will be almost 2 by then, be walking around. That's kind of what I'm waiting for him to be walking around so I can take him to like football practice and track practice and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, I really want to, um, especially because there are other other athletes that are returning that I have coached before. Like Will Samples is returning. He was one of my track athletes. Tori Taraji's returned. She's coaching. Nicole Anastasio's helping coach.
Yeah.
The twins are there.
Nayla and no. Anai and Nayeli.
Anai, yeah.
Yeah.
So they've been, so I would love to do it. I don't know if Coach Sam would be around to do it, but I would love to have her back. She was a big help, but I know her work schedule has been really busy. Ashlyn Ransom was trying to help and then didn't really agree with the way things were happening, so she left. But if she doesn't compete, I'm gonna see if she'll come back and help again.
Great.
But we'll see. Like I said, I would love if I can. I don't want to just leave the track team and just leave Coach hanging with because I know I felt really bad without leaving Coach Cornejo without any help. And I know he's probably relying on me and he trusts me and all this other stuff. So I don't want to just completely stop coaching without him having the right personnel or maybe three people to help run the jumps camp for him. Mm-hmm. So that's the goal is, try to build a staff within a staff to take care of long jump, triple jump, high jump, and then eventually maybe just. So I don't have to coach, but when I show up, I can, meet days I can show up and help judge or do whatever, and for a long time. So that's the goal. Just always. How one of my what we used to tell my football players is when we go on the road is leave it better than you found it, right? Good. So that's the plan.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I would be too for you.
Cornejo, he was like, "Why do you want to be a coach?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm freaking excited because I feel
and then obviously it's not your first time coaching. You've been doing tennis for a long time.
Yeah,
right?
I just told him I think there's no cooler thing than me coming back 4 years later and a full circle moment. And I know a thing or two, and especially being them a few years ago, not only being a student and AP classes and everything, but I could relate to them, so I know what they go through. And I don't know, I feel like it's cool to have, you mentioned a bunch of young people, so it's cool to have young kids. And
it is very cool to have. It's very cool to have the alumni come back that have experienced not only just life, but maybe they experience athletics at the next level, whether it's a junior college or anywhere from a NAIA to a Division I school. Anybody that's ever competed like that, or even just gone to school at a big school like that. Will went to Humboldt, Tori went to Riverside. Just getting that experience just at a school level, is a big help for anybody that thinks they want to go on to the next level and either just go to school or compete, because they have a better understanding on what it's like. I went to junior college for a couple of years, but my experience was a lot different than some of these experiences that other people are going to have. And everyone has different experiences, but that's just something that you can pass on, and hopefully someone takes something from it and they can use it later on, as they grow up.
Yeah. I didn't know that we have. He told me I have to take a online quiz and online tests.
Yeah.
Because turns out if you're a coach, I guess you're supposed to know what to do if an athlete is dehydrated or passes out or breaks
there's a
their
whole
arm.
program for it.
Yeah.
You got to go with the NFHS website, the National Federation of High Schools.
Yeah.
And they do a concussion course, they do a dehydration course.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get CPR certified.
Yeah. It didn't hit me until later. I was like, oh, that makes sense. We should know what we have to do if something like that happens.
See, and it's great that everybody has to know that.
Yeah.
For me, growing up, I started coaching when I was technically 14 years old. I was going into my freshman year in high school. I was Bulldog football starts in August. I turned 15 in September. Literally just got done playing Bulldogs. Because of where my birthday was, I couldn't technically play again. I was going to be too old. They have a thing. So if you're born before December 1st, if you're 14 before December 1st, then, August 1st, then your season is, you're playing as a 14-year-old. that's how it went back then. I don't know how it is now. I haven't coached Bulldogs in quite a few years. But if I would have turned 14 before August 1st, I could have played as a 14-year-old. In 8th grade, I was 13, turning 14. So I played as a 13-year-old. I played, but I was 14. So I got to weigh. The weight limit was different for 13-year-olds than it was 14-year-olds. So I got to weigh as much as a 13-year-old. But if my birthday was after, like if I would turn 15 December 2nd, I could have played Bulldogs as a freshman. I wasn't that lucky, which it doesn't matter. I probably wouldn't have done it anyways. I probably would have played at the high school level regardless. But so I turned to coaching, and I kind of turned to coaching by accident. We were at I'd been working out all summer with the varsity team. Actually, one of the guys I was working out with I just came from his funeral. It's unfortunate. So I was working out all summer with the varsity team because my 8th grade football coach, the coaching staff, lived across the street from my grandmother, and I grew up with them. One of those guys was also coaching at the high school level. He was coaching varsity at the high school level. And so he's like, hey, man, summer workouts start on this day. Let's go. So he picked me up. We went for my first day, shell-socked, like scared the crap out of me. He saw these, big old dudes in the weight room, a couple friends specifically, like bench pressing, I don't know, 350, like just repping it out. Just, you 10, great. And I looked at it. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, all right, that's on another level. So I'm sidetracked. But so that was like my introduction into like certain things. Yeah. So that coach, because of what they did for me at the time, what I was going through with family situations, I was like, man, that's dope that they took the time out. They understood. They knew me. They figured I could help me. So when I was going into my freshman year, Bulldog practice was coming up. Found out we needed community service hours to graduate high school. We needed like 40. And then I was like, cool. How am I going to get it? I knew my grandmother. She ran the mothers group or the whatever it is in Prunedale. She worked. My grandfather worked for the Prunedale Lions Club. They both worked for LULAC. And so all these things they would do, like the Strawberry Festival, Artichoke Festival, they would always have a booth. My mom was like, well, you can go work the booth. They'll give you hours. Yeah. I was like, oh, I don't want to work that booth. I did that before. It sucked. But, I would always do it because my grandparents always asked. And then my defensive line coach, when I played Bulldog Pee-wees, I was like 11, 12. He was taking over the Pee-wee head coaching job. And he was like, man, I need to find coaches. And I had ran into him because the high school had a wrestling tournament. So he had told me early on, hey, when I take that job, I need help. You think you could? And I'd forgotten about it. And then I ran into him later, and he goes, hey, man, you still want to help? And I guess he ran into my mom, and she had mentioned it. And so that's how I got started. He was like, I'll give you community service hours, because that's how he got started. Yeah. Right? So he was young, I think right out of high school. He had gotten into some trouble, needed to work off some community service hours. And so he saw, hey, you played for me. You're going into high school. I think you would do great. I'll give you community service hours. And so that's how I started coaching. Wow. And originally I was too young to technically be coaching because I was still only 14. So it was I wasn't really like volunteering. I was just kind of like, oh, he's hanging out. And then once I turned 15, I was able to, but by the time after the first month of practice, I got all my community service hours. Yeah. So I was like, I'm done technically, but I stunk it out. And that was 1998. What? I was 14, turning 15. It's crazy. I'm still coaching football now. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize that you're like from here. Yeah. When you mentioned Bulldogs as a kid. Wow. Yeah. So I'm originally like, I was when I was born, we lived in Castroville. My mom and dad were like renting a room or something from a friend. But I mean, I grew up mostly in Salinas. Went to middle school. Before they changed the name, it was still Gambetta Middle School is where I went to elementary school in Salinas. Went to Gambetta Middle School, and then I went to North County. And both my older sisters are class of '95, then class of '99, and I'm 2002.
Wow. And your high school reunion's coming up, right?
My high
I saw
school
you
reunion's
posted
coming
about
up
it.
in
That's
August.
crazy.
Yeah, 20 years. I was like, holy shit.
That's crazy. That's insane.
It's insane how fast these years go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, obviously, not all the people I graduated with are still with us. And then I have a lot of people that I graduated with that are just out of the state, and they're like, I'm not coming back. But, you know, then you have people that just won't go to those things. Yeah, I don't need to go to that thing. Well, if I want to talk to you, I talk to you. Like, okay, I get it.
Who sets that thing up, by the way? Who's in charge of that?
For us,
I always wonder, like, who sets them up? How does that thing happen?
It's generally like your class president.
Oh.
So who's your class president? Do you remember?
I want to say it's actually Nicole. So she might actually plan a good reunion. Yeah, I think so.
That's hilarious.
Her or one of the ASB people.
So yeah, it's usually like your class.
Yeah.
Like it's like your class member. So like how you have an ASB member, like they have an ASB president. So your class usually has that. That's who usually does it. Not all the time, but because unfortunately, my class president was while we were still in high school, he was impeached. He wasn't doing a very good job, so they let him go. But you know, unfortunately, he had passed away. So he's passed away. It's been quite a few years now.
Wow.
But everybody else has kind of taken the reins. You know, one of my very good friends is very involved. Two of my very good friends are very involved, and they are helping put it together along with a few other people. So that's great. We did have a very good turnout for our tenure. You know, there was a lot of people that I kind of, you know, it sounds shitty, but I kind of forgot about just because I wasn't really their friend in high school. We graduated in the same class. I knew who you were. We may have had a class or two together. We didn't really talk that much, you know, but then I see them at the class reunion and they're doing just great. And it's like, man, it's so good to like, you might have been a background player in my life because we all have our own people. Uh-oh.
We're good.
Turn that thing off. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I always have it off.
My phone was blown up a second ago. But no, you know, we all have background. You know, it's just like, you know, they were in the background of my life because they weren't my go-to friend. I didn't play sports with them because either they didn't play sports or they didn't go to those things. You know, I didn't. You know, they didn't come to, you know, high school parties and stuff like that. You know, yeah, they went to dances, but they were kind of in their own group. But it was good to see those type of people because it reminds you of a simpler time. And those were always the people that, you may not have talked to them then, but you talk to them now. Like at the reunion, you talk to them and it's great conversation, right? Like I have some people on my Facebook and Instagram that I never talked to in high school. But as you get older, you know, your lives change. Yeah. And, you know, now, you know, we're friends on Facebook and it's great to see that they're either married or not married or having a kid or trying to have a kid. You know, I'm 38. I'm going to be 39 soon. So it's like some of my friends have already been divorced. Wow. So if I feel it's a shitty situation, but you know, life happens. Yeah. But it is what it is. And it's fun. I go, you know, not everybody's a social person. You know, I don't have any problem with it. I love going. I love seeing people that I haven't talked to in a long time because it's fun to catch up with a lot of people. You know, like I said, unfortunately, I came from a funeral with somebody. He graduated in the class of '99, so he was older than me. He was a friend of my sister's originally, but he was one of the first guys. Like I said, when I walked going into my freshman year, I walked into the weight room, first time ever during the summer. And he was one of those guys that was in there throwing weight around. And from that day forward, it was just like I was his little brother. You know what I mean? And there was a core group of those guys that did that for me, you know, and that's when as an athlete, I always tried to do that for other people. Probably didn't come off that way because I was kind of a dick. If you a lot of my friends I played high school sports with said I was an asshole when I was playing sports, but I get it. When you want to win and you have a championship mentality, it doesn't always come across correctly on certain people.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to coach that mentality to kids you're coaching than it is to teammates that you're playing with. But that's what sports does. I mean, that's as a coach, that's one of those things where I was coached by championship coaches who, when they were players, were championship players. That's how I started. So I've always tried to keep that mindset, as an athlete and as a coach. And it doesn't always come off very well. And over the years, like I said, this will be my 23rd, 24th year as a coach. Yes, I'm coaching at a higher level now, but the message has never changed. The delivery has changed, especially with track. I can't yell at you guys and cuss you out at track season. It's just not going to happen. That's a whole other animal. Not because there are women and young girls also on the team. I've coached female athletes for football, and they get it, but it's just different. The mentality is different. The vibe is different. But the way I coach now is definitely not the same way I coached when I first started. It's been a huge transition, and I struggled with the transition for a while. Like, no, it's got to be the same. It's got to always be the same, and nothing should change. And everyone says nothing should change, but you know what? Your athletes change, and their mentality changes, their family lives change. So it's really hard. You really have to turn into someone that learns how to read individuals. That's why I believe, a teacher's job is very hard. You're dealing with, depending on what type of level you teach at, you can deal with hundreds of personalities in a day. Or if you're at the elementary school level, you deal with 30 different personalities once. But, if you're high school, middle school, college, you're dealing with hundreds of different personalities all the time. Coaching, you're dealing with like 60 different personalities every day for, so many months. And at certain levels, like at the youth level, sometimes you're dealing with new personalities every year. And then you have coaching personalities that change, coaching Bulldogs. Sometimes I had kids for 4 years. Sometimes I had them for 1. For the high school, I got lucky one for a couple seasons, and I was able to stay with the same group of kids for 4 years, which was great because not only did I have those guys for 4 years of high school, I had a lot of them for 2 to 3 years for Bulldogs. You know what I mean? Which is great. And, those kids I love, I love all my kids that I've ever coached. And I call you kids, which is the funniest thing is because the kids the people I coached my very first year coaching I was 15, they were 12. So when I played as an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, they were 9. So we were on the same team. Wow. So that was interesting. Wow. So they're not that much younger than me. So like I'm gonna be 38 and these guys are 36, and I'm just like, oh, crazy. And it's crazy. And it was the first time I ever, even that group of guys, they were like my little brothers till this day. I still, I see them. Hey, what's up? And even to think, even me at 24 years old, when they all turned 21. And I saw them at a bar for the first time. I was like, y'all shouldn't even be here. Like, what's going on? Yeah. And then I have to stop and realize, no, they're literally not that much younger than I am. Like, and now coaching football at the junior college level, a lot of these guys are 25, 26. Like, I had a 30-year-old on the team last year, a 35-year-old on the year before. And I was like, all right, well, this is different. And it goes from, the spectrum goes from like 17 years old up to like however years old. So that's also a lot different, trying to figure out their personalities, who they're from, where they're from. And we only get those guys for 2 years, sometimes only 1. And learning that is a challenge. So like when it comes to like teaching and coaching, I believe those are probably the most challenging jobs to have.
Yeah.
But can also be the most rewarding. Like case in point, like for instance, like me being here with you, right? Obviously, I did something right for you to have a positive memory of what I did for you and for you to ask me to be on here. But you know, I know for a fact there's athletes out there that didn't like the way I was. You know, that they didn't have a good time playing for me. You know, and I have had somebody say, "Well, that person quit playing football because you were an asshole." And I was like, "Well, I understand that. You know, maybe they just couldn't take it. You know." Back, you know, years ago, like I would have like, well, maybe he's just, you know, you know, I would have, but it, as you grow as a coach and as you grow in personality, like, well, you know, maybe that was when the times should have changed for me. Like I should have changed the way I approach certain things.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it at that time. And so, you know, and as a coach, you have your ups, you have your downs, just like as a teacher, I'm assuming like, you got to figure out how to best get the message through to your students. So it's all alert. It's still like I said, I've been doing this for almost 24 years, and I still don't know anything about football.
in those 24 years, though, has there been like an athlete or one of your kids who have like impacted your life or left an impact on you?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Quite a few. And that's why I'm so close with a lot of athletes now. Like, I mean, you can text me whenever, you know, like you got my number, you can text me. I have quite a few. You know, there's a couple of athletes that are just like family to me, and literally like, for instance, so that first year I was coaching a young man, Reggie Tops. He was 9 years old. And the first day I met him and his dad, it was one of the funniest things I could have. His dad was a military man, and his dad was probably, I want to say in his 50s or 60s, and challenged me to a 40-yard dash. He's like, "You think you fast, huh?" And I was like, "No, no, I don't." Wow. and we ran and we tied, and I was like, "Holy shit!" But from that day on, like he treated me like family. You know, to this day, Reggie is, you know, I call him my little brother because he's been around for everything. I've seen him go play through Bulldogs, play through high school. He played at the University of Utah. He was Utah Ute, had a full ride scholarship. Yeah. You know, he texted me, "Hey, I'm entering the NFL draft," and I was like, "Oh shit, I'll watch." Unfortunately, he didn't get drafted. He did get an invite, and it just didn't work out. You know, unfortunately for him, but. Yeah, like something like that. That's huge.
That's a big thing. Wow.
Yeah, that is a big thing. You know, and then Aaron Palacios is another one. I had him. I actually went to school with his older brother. His older brother was a phenomenal wrestler. We didn't always get along, me and his brother, but you know what? We're adults and we have a mutual respect for each other. And you know, Aaron's a great person. The whole family's really great. But Aaron, I was always remember something special about Aaron. And now Aaron runs his own company. You know, the whole family does. They're very good, hardworking kids. Aaron tries to give back. I actually was able to coach football with Aaron a few years ago when we coached at North County. Then there was a young man. I called him Superman. Don't remember his real name, I'm going to be honest with you.
We'll go with Superman.
We're going with Superman. And we call him Superman because he played Pee-wees for me. Mm-hmm. And he had a Superman shirt on. He was a short, stocky kid, wore glasses. His sisters went to North County. That kid, man, he was special. He passed away, unfortunately. To suicide. He was unfortunately felt that he didn't have anyone to talk to, and that wasn't hurt because I think he was only in middle school at the time when he did it, maybe high school. So he felt he was being bullied and had nobody to talk to. But that kid for 3 years, short, stocky kid, he wore glasses, the most unassuming kid that you'd ever meet. And he, big old smile all the time. I remember the last year he played Pee-wees for me. He think he had to lose a little bit of weight. So me and him would run around the football field together and he would make me laugh. And, someone like that, he was very special. A very special young man. I miss that young man. But it's not the first time. That was the very first time I had lost an athlete to something like that.
Wow.
But he's not the only one, which is unfortunate. Some of these kids, some people, like I've had family members, drug abuse, sexual abuse, bullying, verbal and mental, whatever it is. And some people just don't feel like they have anyone to talk to. Yeah. Some people feel like the world doesn't understand. Who knows? And, they just, things like that just kind of happen and they feel like that's the only way they can get out of it. And it's tough, probably touching personal for you. But, and I've tried to use some of those lessons as, life lessons, not only for me, for, when someone's hurting and you can see that they're hurting, because sometimes it is very visual, out at practice and things like that. And just say, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just had an athlete, just actually this past season. He had gotten into it with another teammate and some words were exchanged. It almost turned physical. And I didn't realize what was going on in his life. So he had exchanged some words, and when I pulled him aside, and he said, well, this month, he's talking about this, and then he doesn't know what the fuck's going on in my life. And so I was just sat him down. We had a conversation, man. And ever since that day, like he just got a scholarship to, I think it's New Mexico Westland or something like that. And the day before he left, he calls me. And I was like, hey, man, thanks for all the support. Thanks for everything you've done. And, I'll keep you updated and all that other stuff. So I've had a lot, like there's been a lot of impacts.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, Sam Perez, I met her, I think she was in 7th grade, and she was tutoring Bobby Tovar in math. And I think he was in 8th grade or something like that. Yeah. And I met her at a fundraiser. Her parents were still very big involved with fundraisers at North County for football. And she was standing next to me. We were rapping. It was December. We were doing gift wrapping at Northridge Mall. And we started talking, and then I realized she doesn't shut up.
I know, yeah.
But she just made me laugh because here's this little girl who just had this big smile on her face, a big laugh.
Yeah.
And cowboy boots on.
Yes.
And I was like, you're in jogging pants. Like she was in like Adidas jogging pants or something and a sweatshirt. She got cowboy boots on. So, but then after then, when I was able to start coaching track and I got to know her, like really know her, she's a special person. Her, Tori Taraji, very special. Will Samples, his brother Jeremy. Those are the ones like in most recent years. Right? We've had a few conversations. Nothing too deep because I don't know how you really felt in the beginning, but we've have had some conversations, especially more recent, right? So everyone has their own moment. Some athletes come and go, and then some of them just never leave you. Like whether it's physically or mentally or just now with social media, it's a lot harder to get rid of you guys. No, I'm just kidding. But now with social media, it's a lot easier to keep track of you guys, right? Actually last night I was just on Instagram, I was just going back and forth with Shakira last night because she had posted something. And I was like, oh man, I haven't talked to Shakira in a long time. Like, wow. So we were going back and forth, but it's nice. It's nice to have that access to everybody, especially the track athletes, because track is something different. It's a different vibe than football. It's still all family, but it's just a little different.
Mm.
But family is family.
Yeah.
So
It's really cool.
yeah.
Has being a dad at all changed your coaching style?
I hope not.
Or did coaching style help you at all with being a dad?
Yeah, coaching has actually helped. Everybody has their own, for lack of a better word, demons. And I am no better than anybody else. And I have had quite a few struggles in my life. And before he was born, it was very easy for me when I got frustrated to just like pop off at anybody, whoever was around, whatever. But, with coaching, you can't always do that. But at the same time, you can, especially with football. But it has definitely taught me patience.
Yes.
Because, and that's just over time, patience has definitely come into play later in my coaching career just because the athletes are different. Their mentality is different. Before, when I first started, I can sit there and chew you out as a football player and your parents weren't going to say anything about it because I knew you were a football player. You're on my field. They're in the stands, and we'll talk about it later if need be. Later on, as the world was changing and the mentality has been changing, it's turned a lot into, well, now I can't yell at you because your mom's going to get upset. And then they're going to, and I don't want to deal with your parents. You know what I mean? If your parents have an issue, you need to tell them what's wrong. Now, if you don't want to tell them the truth, then I'll tell them. But I've had to learn patience with that because it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't like it. I don't like having to be that way with athletes because it shouldn't really be that way, I guess. I don't know if that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But like with my son, it's one of those things. Like I told my wife, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to be his coach, as an athlete, if he wants to be an athlete. I'm not going to force him to be an athlete.
Yeah.
I just want him to find something he's passionate about and do it. My dad's a mechanic, and he's been a mechanic for 40 years, something, or maybe more than that. And that's always been his passion. He didn't try to force me into that, but he would have really liked if I would have been a mechanic. Now, I love working on cars and motorcycles and whatever, but I tried to do it, and I couldn't, doing it every day, I couldn't do it. There was no way. It wasn't something that I loved doing every day. Now, coaching, I still have a passion for. Just like being an athlete, right? So, obviously, if I was in shape or whatever, and I still had the passion to play, because if I could, I would. But since my opportunities kind of went away, I just transferred that passion from playing into coaching. And giving someone an opportunity to be an athlete as long as they want, because even in high school with track, you can be an athlete through your senior year, even if you're not a great athlete. Some people go to junior college and become very good athletes. You may not shine at a high school level, but you get a little better coaching and more one-on-one coaching at a junior college level if that's what you want to do. And some people flourish at it. Some people don't. There was a young lady that she was one of our athletes. Grayson, remember Grayson?
I do.
Have you talked to Grayson?
Not recently.
I miss that girl. I don't know where I haven't talked to her since she graduated, and I feel bad. But I know she went to NPC and tried to compete, and she struggled. So at that level, you kind of have to qualify to compete. And I guess from my understanding, she wasn't qualifying to compete. And I don't think, it wasn't, I don't think it ended well for her as far as track goes. And I feel really bad because she did always work hard. She was one of my favorites. Her and Miss Henderson were really close, and she was one of her favorites. But yeah, like I said, I don't know if Grayson's on social media at all, but I wish I can get in touch with her. But yeah, she was one of those athletes where I wish I had one more year with her. And then before she went on to junior college, so that she had a better understanding. But it is rough, like when you're moving on as an athlete to other levels where, sometimes the coaching isn't there. You know what I mean? So sometimes you have great high school coaches, then you go to like a junior college and there's either not as many coaches that you need, or the coaching just isn't up to par. You know what I mean? Like Hartnell's got a lot of coaches. At that point, NPC had like 3. So I think what happened with her was there just wasn't enough coaches to have that one-on-one time like we had in high school. You know, so it wasn't. She didn't have enough people to help coach her through her flourishment to where she could have probably gotten better and then started qualifying to compete and all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember I went to NPC. I never tried out. I should have, but I remember something was like you have to clear. Oh God, I think I had to clear something in order to be with them. But the thing I had to clear was like my PR in high school, and it was like 8 months after, and I'm like, dang. So I just did tennis. I played tennis in NPC for 2 or 3 years, but they don't have a men's tennis team. So
it was like a club.
I was taking classes, and but then the coach, he loved the way that I play, so he told me whenever I want, I can play with the girls' team, and I could play with them. So that's what I did.
Oh, that's cool.
I loved playing tennis in NPC.
That's cool. See, my mom was an athlete when she was in high school. Yeah. She tried to get me to play tennis when I was younger, and I didn't understand it. So I think I wrecked more rackets than anything else. It's either I wrecked the racket or the ball like went flying out of the way out of the court. Because where we lived, so Central Park in Salinas had tennis courts around there, and then over at Sherwood Park they had a tennis court right next to the new swimming pool is, right? And so when I would play, I would get frustrated and just hit the shit out of the ball, and it would just go flying out. And my mom was like, "Really?" So we just leave.
It's a lot of fun.
So tennis was not for me. Let's say that, but neither was soccer. So
I hated soccer. They put me in soccer too. I got a participation trophy. But my tennis trophy is the only one I earned. I won a whole tennis tournament when I was 12. Yeah. No, 11. I was 11.
Yeah. See, we played soccer when I was younger.
Yeah.
From, I don't know, really young until I think I was about 10. The first couple teams I was on was co-ed, and then it started getting more competitive. Right? So the last year I played, it wasn't pretty. I think I was on defense, and I wasn't one. Like, the reason why they put you on defense is because you're not that fast. So, like, compared to the rest of my teammates, I wasn't that fast. But our head coach was an old pro from Mexico, so he didn't speak very good English. So I was the only one on the team that didn't speak Spanish. I had to have his son translate everything he said for me. I mean, we did really well. I think we went undefeated that year, but it was still like, I didn't really do anything.
Wasn't me.
I stood out there by the goalie and made sure nobody came in. And So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, my parents, they signed me up for wrestling because I was obsessed with WWE. Oh, yeah. Turns out when you go to wrestling, it's not like WWE. Like that at all. I was like, where's the ring? It's just a bunch of mats. Yeah. And you're being rough and flipping people over and choking them, and not my thing. I mean, I did it, but not my thing. That was not for me.
Yeah. See, and growing up, my mom always tried to. My sisters weren't really athletic. I think one of my sisters got like kicked out of gymnastics for being too rushed, and like the other sister was kind of clumsy or whatever. But they didn't really do anything until I think my oldest sister. She finally did like powder puff in high school and cross country. Cool. She did soccer and cross country, but she didn't want to compete. Like, she was the best cross country runner they had, but she didn't want to compete. She was just out of practice, and she was like, "Well, I work on Saturdays," and okay, but so like growing up, I did soccer, baseball, jiu-jitsu, football, basketball, track. Once I got to middle school, and my parents like. even though they had their problems. They just like me doing all those sports was great for them. You know what I mean? Kept me busy, and by the time I come home, I'd better go to sleep. So
Yes.
it kept me from breaking anything in the house that that didn't need to be broken.
Cool.
But like I said, like growing up as an athlete, my mom was an athlete, but she was never a coach. My dad was never an athlete, but because of his career path, being like he was a mechanic, he was actually on a race car team for many years. Nothing like NASCAR. They raced Corvettes, Porsches, BMWs, Nissan, stuff like that. They would travel the country. So he was on the pit crew for a long time. And as I got older, he became the crew chief. So he was like the coach. So that was what we bonded on, was going to the races with him and being able to like bust tires, like work on the car with him, stuff like that. That stuff I loved. I love it to this day. When my dad retires, he says he has a motorcycle he wants to rebuild. I'm like, yeah, but you live down south. We can't rebuild it together if you're that in there. So he's going to figure that out. But those things like rebuilding a car for me and my dad, we've done it. And it's one of the best times I ever had hanging out with my dad.
Wow.
But again, like he learned how to deal with me as an athlete from working on those race car teams, because our mentalities were different, right? We didn't connect on anything as far as he didn't understand athletics. You know, he loves football, loves watching football, baseball, hockey, whatever, but he doesn't really understand it. He just loves watching it for entertainment, you know? And so him working on those race car teams, that was his way of, okay, so that was his way of being an athlete. And then when he became the crew chief, you know, that was his way of being a coach. So that's where he started to understand, like as an athlete, you know, he was starting to put things together. I was on the phone with him before I got here, and he still can't believe I'm still coaching. He's like, I don't know how you put up with it.
Wow.
He's like, you don't get mad or whatever. I was like, yeah, but it's football. I can yell. It's fine.
Yeah. Wow.
I've been doing it long enough. I know how to choose my battles.
Yes. Has any one of your football players ever like yelled at you back, or has anything?
I did. Well, no, not so much. Yes and no. Do you remember Elijah Pillow? Put him on blast right now. Put everybody on
yes
blast.
Yes and no, not
really.
So
I had him as a Bulldog athlete. Great kid. Loved the kid. One of those kids that you had to earn his trust, but once you did, he would turn over the world for you. His freshman year, there was some things going on at home, I believe, and he had gotten into a fight on the field. I don't remember if it was freshman or sophomore year. He got in a fight on the football field during a game, and I went and I grabbed him, and I was trying to calm him down. I had my arm around his shoulders, and I can hear from the stands like his family or whatever yelling, and I'm trying to get through his head that he's better than that. You're not that type of kid. Yeah, he had a temper tantrum, but that's not what he's about. That's not how I coach you. Where's this coming from? Yada yada yada. And I kind of just kind of pushed him a little bit, like, here, go sit on the bench for a little while, right? Now he turns around and he's all pissed off, and he goes to lift his fist at me like he's gonna punch me. Yeah, it's the first time that's ever happened. First time that's ever happened, threw me off, and the only reaction I had was, "You're done. That's it. No more football for you." Right? I called the AD, came over. I was like, "Go get it." I was like, "That's it. He's done." Kicked him off the team right there. Yeah. It's something I would never tolerate, ever. Now after the fact, after the game was over, everyone's going to the locker room. He's starting to calm down, and he comes over and he gives me a big old hug. He's crying. He's apologizing. His stepdad's over there trying to apologize. I was like, dude, I get it. I get it. Football is a very emotional game. Anybody that tells you that football is not a game of life is full of shit. They probably never played football before. They're probably never an athlete before. you know, I could just tell like he just felt so bad in his heart. He knew he was wrong, but I had to make a stance, and unfortunately, it was him. So he didn't get to play for me that year for the rest of that season. Although I did allow him, if we needed a ball boy, go ahead. We need water. We need someone. Okay, go ahead. And I think that changed the dynamic of mine and his relationship to where anything he needed, he would just ask. Like there was something going on at the school, and usually he always had an issue with another student, another athlete. And that was like, after that, him and that athlete, anything that went down, they always had each other's back. And this was before that, this would never happen. You know what I mean? So the following season, he came out and he did great. Played great for me. And then all of a sudden, he's starting to have great issues, family issues. I lost track of him. Last time I talked to him, he was still in the area, working on a ranch and then working on a fishing boat. But as of late, I've heard that he's out in the valley somewhere. But he was the one athlete that I've ever had that happen. I've seen it happen before. I've seen a father as a coach and a son as a player, like, push each other on the sideline, like literally get in each other's face screaming, and one pushes the other and starts cussing him out. It's like, that's not cool. But I've seen it. I've seen players punch their coaches.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like not even holding anything back, just full blown punch their coach in the face. It was like, wow. Like, I was like, man, I don't know what happened, but I hope I never do that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like some coaches don't understand, and maybe we shouldn't have to, but I've taken it upon myself to, like, that times have changed, our athletes have changed, so do our approach has to change. And a lot of coaches don't believe that. And that's how some of these coaches get in trouble like that.
Wow.
You know, and a lot of it comes down to understanding who your athletes are. Right? Like, I've grown up in this area, and I understand these families because my family is one of these families. You know, there's coaches that have come from out of the area that think they know what these families are. They think they know what these families go through. And they get it wrong, you know. But, you know, if I were to ever come back to coaching at North County High School, I would definitely have to apply for the head coaching position. I don't know if I can be an assistant coach at that level, but yeah, the plan, you know, obviously I would love to come back and coach at at the high school level. Maybe the Bulldogs. I don't know if I can do that anymore. That might be a little too low just because of all the things. I might be too intense for that, and probably get in a lot of trouble for yelling at people. But I mean, coaching track, I would love to coach as long as I could. But now that I have a son, it's a little tougher. And track was always a second love for me as an athlete, as opposed to like football. But you know, if I can do it, I'm going to.
Yeah.
And just continue, and just because there's, you know, I have an athlete right now that's not around. He's in school. Let's put it that way. And he reaches out every chance he gets. I don't know how, but you know, I watched him grow up. I watched his little sister grow up. You know, I've wrote a couple of letters of recommendation for him for certain things. I've given him community service hours when he needed it. And that kid, I love him to death. He's very loyal, sometimes too loyal to the wrong people. But like when you ask about kids making an impact, like it's kids like him. And I know I made an impact on him, but I guess it wasn't enough to keep him out of trouble. And if there's somebody that you can reach as a coach, especially if you're going to be doing this for a while, and you feel like, you know, even if it's just 1 out of 10, if you've reached somebody, that's rewarding enough, you know. And I was just like I said, I was unfortunately at this funeral. There was a young man there. I coached him for Pee Wee's, and he is a relative of the person that just passed. And he was giving me like, man, I remember when you had us, you had us running hills, you had us doing this. If we got in a fight with a teammate, you'd make us hold hands. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that anymore, but like he like make us you'd make us hold hands, and we have to run laps, and just so we wouldn't fight anymore, and this and that. And I was just like, he was like, and just like him, like it seems like we don't ever need validation as a coach, especially like in certain sports. Like, hey, the team won a game, that means I'm doing something right. Right, but when you have someone like that comes from a family that struggles, and he understands, he or she understand that, what we were doing was all out of love, and it was all out of making you the best, trying to guide you to be the best person you can be. Like that, for me, that's very rewarding. Like, I don't care if we ever win a championship. I don't care how good or bad you are as an athlete. As long as you are better, you're a better person from the day we met to the day, like the end of the season. If you feel like I've done anything for you as making you a better person, or maybe you didn't like me, and but you are better for it, or whatever. Like, I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's at every level. Because like I said, there's some athletes out there that did not like playing football for me. Yeah. But they turn around and they remember what I did. Like I said, I've had athlete, prime example, I had an athlete years ago. He told me that he quit playing football because he couldn't handle me pushing him that hard. But he was also a very good baseball player. So he said, I never forgot the lesson that you taught me of always working harder than everybody else. And then he had opportunities to go play for like a minor league team and things like that. And he's like, I've never forgotten that lesson. Like, it's always, you always have to, because for me as an athlete, it was always, you have to work harder than everybody else because there's always somebody better than you.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, no, you can't ever think anybody better than you. Well, then you're not working hard enough, right? If you want to be the best, you got to, like for me mentally, I was always thinking, I want to be the best, but there's always somebody better. So how am I going to get better than that person? Wow. So that's always the mentality that I've had as an athlete. And that's what I try to instill in my athletes. It doesn't always work because some people don't care. Track is more of a fun thing. Yeah. Right? It's more sociable. Like, it's more of a social event than anything else. So that is just one of the, especially with track, it doesn't always work, but it's fun. Right. And that's why I think I love coaching track, is because I don't have to be the same person I am coaching football. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's more of a breather. It's a lot more fun. It's, it's work, and we're going to work, but it's a lot easier to make it fun because, at the end of the day, that's all it's about. If you don't enjoy it, then why are we doing it?
Yeah. Yes. Track is hella fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we finish up, I always allow my guests to ask me a question before we finish up. So anything in the world that you want to ask me, and I'll answer it.
What took you so... I'm just kidding. I was about to be really upset if I wasn't on here. No, I'm kidding.
I've had a lot of people.
You have had
a lot of people. And
I think
of a lot of people. And
you have had a lot of people.
The ideas never stop.
No. So. Shoot, I didn't realize how long we've been going already.
I know.
Probably could have gone longer. We could probably keep going. I'll come back. Don't worry about it. It's
We'll have another question for you after this one.
Yeah. You know what? Not so much like why you chose to do this, because that's a lot of, I don't know. That's kind of a generic question. Let's get personal really quick. When, if you don't mind me asking, when did you decide it was time to come out because I kind of always knew. I had a feeling. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But it was never my place to ask because I felt if you wanted to tell me, you would have told me.
Right.
So when I saw you post a video about it, I was very happy for you. I was like, man, like he's living his life. Like it felt like you'd finally grown up, and it was like, hey, here I am, take it or leave it, and love it or don't. And that's part of the reason why I love coaching so much is because, if and trust me, I've had to grow a lot as a person to understand growing because I grew up at a different time. It wasn't always understandable. We didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know a lot of things. Very naive, very ignorant. But as I got older, I was able to realize, like, hey, your cousin. And I was like, oh, really? No idea. But when did you decide that you were comfortable enough? If you don't mind.
No. Let's see. Well, I go more in depth. This is a little secret for you, but I've been writing a book.
Okay.
For over a year, and I go like full in depth and full into detail with everything. But I struggled with it probably since I was about like 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
Always struggled with it. Was bullied about it in school. But I was bullied about it just because I wasn't like a normal guy. I was always standing out. I never liked to be like everyone else. I liked different things. I liked doing different things. And that's what people bullied me on. And so I struggled with it my whole life, but I just always push myself forward, and I try to fit in, and I try to be like every normal guy. And I really tried my hardest because high school was just full of judgment and everyone trying to and just
people used
be
to think
liked.
I was crazy as shit in high school.
Yes,
I was an asshole and I was crazy. That's what everyone thought.
Yeah, everyone's trying to be liked by everyone and just fit in. So I was friends with majority of people. Like I was really like I cared about a lot of people. I loved listening to people, and I was friendly with everyone. But there was always that talk around school all the fucking time, and it was so annoying because no one ever came up to me to say it. I would hear from my friends. They're like, oh, this person said this about you. This person came up to me and asked me about this. And a lot of my friends had to lie to these people, but they didn't really know.
Right.
It wasn't until I graduated high school when I felt this relief that I'm like on my own, and then I was in college and no one really knows who I am, and I could finally be myself. But I did always struggle with it, and it was kind of like, Yoel, just act cool. Yoel, just don't let people see through you, I guess. Down to like what I would wear, because I'm a very fashionable person, so I always try to like not be that fashionable, and down to like the friends that I had. So it wasn't until I turned 20 because I was just so drained already by holding that big secret my whole life. I was just done with it. So I started with my friends, and they were very accepting, but I still felt the same, like that big old like my heart is like breaking and I need to let this out. And I felt the same because the only people you care about is your family, what they think. That was the big thing that was holding me back from it. So little by little, I started. The first one was my dad. I knew my dad was going to be the hardest. I'm just got to get dad out of the way. And it went great. He just told me that to tell everyone, like, in that same moment, because I'm going to have to relive this moment of, like, crying and being in so much anxiety and shit over and over again. So that same day, I called my grandparents, my uncles, aunts, cousins, and just told everyone. But that was one of my lowest moments because people think like you come out and you're yourself and you're finally happy. No, but it's I
know from experience of like relatives and other no, that's a lot of them come out because of like this darkness that's over them at that time. It's never obviously it's never an easy moment. Anybody that's never had to go through it will never understand it. Anybody that has never dealt with anybody will probably never understand it. Like I said, I've had to grow to understand it. come like later on, I have had relatives. Like growing up, we didn't see it. Like I said, I'm gonna be 39, so I come from a different time of
Yeah.
acceptance or denial or whatever it is. You know, I remember a story of my mom telling me when one of her favorite cousins, um, hilarious person when I got to meet him, loved him. He did so many extravagant things. And he would do the parades and he would dress up and he was hilarious, right? Um, but it was always never really told until later. Like, oh, whose cousin David lived with? Like, oh, that's his roommate. You know what I mean? Things like that. But my mom, when he originally came out to his family, and they were a very traditional Mexican family, nobody talked to him but his brother. Like he was disowned. So when I saw your video, like my heart kind of sank because I was like, man, I hope your family is okay with this because I've heard it. You know, I've had another cousin, same thing. Like nobody talked to him but his mom. You know, and I don't understand why it's a lot easier to accept. I guess it's just society, or maybe it's just our train of thought. Why it's a lot easier to accept women coming out than it is for men to come out. Like I don't understand that, but there's still a lot of things that I don't understand about everything. Like again, coming from a different time, you know, we were taught that it's a choice. I was like, no, it's really not. Like as I get older, I understand. You know, like I said,
Yeah.
I had to learn these things late because even in high school we didn't. When I was in high school, nobody talked about it. Everybody, there was a couple of people we assumed, you know, a lot of people we didn't, but it wasn't like when we would say like I said, it was very popular for us to go, oh, that's gay, just being that's stupid, or use, I'm not gonna say it, the F word, you know, like we'd make fun of our friend, you know, whatever, and it was just something we did because the time was different. Growing up, when you're finding out, like, no, that friend of yours was gay the whole time, and you know, I have a friend that I went to high school with. He's transitioned, and at first I thought when I saw his Facebook post, when I saw his Facebook and it said that, I was like, I don't know that person. And then like I did a deeper dive, and I was like, holy shit, I had no idea. You know what I mean? But then when they tell you somebody else from high school, they're like, that makes sense. But you know, but I have cousins, like I said, family members. My wife's best friend from work and he's great. Love him. Like me and him, we'll go to the movies together without her. It's funny, but like I said, it has taken time for older generations to understand.
Yes.
Like even with some of my family members, like they that are older, like you know, that are my parents' age, they don't always understand even to this day. But when I saw your video, you looked tired, but you looked like you were healing. So it looked like I don't want to say your heart was full because it might not have been, but that looked like you. When I finally saw when I saw the video of it, like I said, I was very proud of you. It looked like that was your step to. It looked like something was broken. That was your first step to healing. To me, that's what I saw.
That was like the day I started. It might sound deep, but like the day I started living.
Yeah.
From that day forward,
and
like I could see myself.
From your video, I can tell when you said it, like this whole weight lifted off, and I can tell.
Yeah, like I could finally breathe, and I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I know my story is like sucks and shit, but there's a lot worse stories that I've read.
Worse stories.
So I'm very lucky that all my friends are still my friends. I was hanging out with my friend Andrew and Bobby last night, just us three. I go to their house, we all hang out. Nothing ever changed, right. So I'm very lucky with it.
And at this time, like I said, the world is a lot more accepting.
Yes.
Obviously, your friends are accepting, but like I said, I know people that they lost friends. They've lost family members, and I can never talk to them again. It's like, why? You were just with them a week ago. What changed in a week? Nothing. except for this, you know. And it's and I don't understand it, I guess, because to me, family is still just always family. You know, like if you didn't do anything to hurt me physically or whatever, there's no reason not to continue to love you like you did before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that's about it. I mean, obviously it was a lot harder throughout life, but
Oh yeah,
but the main decision was I just wanted to just get it out there. I didn't want to hold that in any longer. So that's when I finally started living and having fun and being confident and finding myself, which I'm still working on because I'm still young. But
I'm still finding myself.
Yeah, but my dad, he was like, I remember when you were a kid, you were always so loud and talkative and extrovert. And then the more you grew, it was like you're just so shy and reserved, you barely even talked. And now I understand why. He always had this thing, like, why was I always so reserved and I didn't talk to anyone? Right. And that was a big thing.
See, and that can be, a lot of people can, that can be very misconstrued as, well, he's going through something and nobody just knows what it is, right? Like I said earlier, like we all have demons in our life, in our emotionally, mentally, whatever it is. I've struggled with a lot of things in my life. A lot of my relatives have struggled. So like for me, obviously nothing like that, but I struggled with alcoholism for a long time. And it's one of those things where you've got to find ways around, but even with all my struggles, like your family still loves you. Some of them may not, but most of them do, and I'm glad that yours do through all of this. Yeah, it got really real for a second. But yeah, man, like I said, when I saw that video, and I guess I just asked the question just because I noticed a change. Because I've seen you before and I've seen you after, and the change is for the better. And like I said, I was able to tell that this big kind of like weight was lifted off your shoulders when I saw it.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, I wonder when he decided, because like I said, like you said, your dad was very accepting.
Yeah.
You know, but what if he wasn't?
I know.
You know, how tough would it have been? That the video you made might have looked a lot different.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I'm very glad that your family and your friends are very accepting for it.
Yeah. And I want to say thank you too I always felt very safe and happy going to practice. I'm like, yeah, I'm excited to go to practice. You always had a safe space, because it wasn't just me being in closet. I was also like, when you were coaching me, I was 20 pounds underweight. I was going through an eating disorder, still am, body issues. My parents were divorcing. Like all your athletes, like you were saying earlier, we all have our shit that maybe we'll tell you, but there's also things that you might not know. Yeah. But we all come together at the end of the day, and we work and we have fun and socialize.
Yeah. And then that's always the best thing, right? It's always, and I know, like I said, coming from a different time, there's probably things I said. Probably shouldn't have said those things. Might have offended a bunch of, athletes, whatever. But, that's just, and I've always done this with, I'm going to treat, no matter if you're 9 or 19, I'm going to treat you like a regular person. So I'm not going to really change much, whether we're at track practice or we're at a bar hanging out, or like if we're at like Burger King eating, whatever. Like my personality is never really going to change, right? So the things that come out of my mouth, some of it might be offensive. Apologize in advance and postmortemly. but I've always found it like, hey, especially with that, like we're family. So if that offends you, please come tell me. Try not to do it again. I might slip up. Like I said, I have problems. I don't remember a whole lot of things. Played football for 9 years, man. I've taken a lot of head injuries. But like the thing, just this is one of those things where I've always tried to make sure we're safe, we're having fun, but we're also working hard. And no matter what, always come and say, "Hey, I didn't like that. This wasn't right. Whatever." I mean, like my wife, when before coaching track, I told her, I was like, "Hey, I need hair ties and tampons." She looked at me like, "What?" I was like, "Well, I coach girls on the track team now.
Yeah.
They got to make sure they're set up because someone might forget or they run out,
Wow.
whatever." And she just looked at me. She was like, "I'm not buying those girls tampons." I was like, "Well, buy the hair ties, and then I'll tell them if they have extras, just give it to me." And then, yeah, she went through my coaching backpack one day. She's like, "Really? You really do have?" I was like, "Yeah, I told you they were gonna." It's like,
Wow.
this is how it goes. So like, it's just one of the, especially with coaching young women. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I grew up with two older sisters. I have, growing up, there was like 7 other female cousins that I was always around. So like, if a girl has to talk about, her time of the month, I can listen to it. I'm not a, I'm not a coach like, oh, hold on, don't talk to me about that. Like some people get like that. They get weirded out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like, my goddaughter is now, what, 12, 13? She's in middle school.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Got to deal about that now. Like my sister's going nuts and she's
Mm-hmm.
she's like, shit. So like when it comes to female athletes, hey, I kind of have an understanding. Still gonna push you through this, but like I get it. Like, but and that's where the first year I started coaching track, I had to kind of brush up on my health stuff and realize when there's a girl, she goes, "Oh, I can't. I have. Wait, you can still run because you know what? Exercise is the best thing for you." Like literally, it says in the health book, like there's a couple things that a female athlete should do, and if you have hardcore cramps from your menstrual cycle, exercise, running, and stuff like that, that's supposed to help, like relieve that pressure. So I was like, good to know. So
Yeah.
Sam and them used to get mad at me about it. Like, no, you can start about. They're like, how do you don't know? Like, yes, I do. Look, I looked it up one time and showed them, and they were so mad at me for it.
Wow. I'm gonna use that too.
But yeah, so be prepared for that. That's gonna be fun and interesting.
God.
Get yourself a bag. Have one of the coaches have it.
A bag, yeah.
But most of the girls, they're smart enough. They bring extras stuff, and it's the hair ties that's gonna kill them. They always lose them or they break or whatever. So get yourself a thing of hair ties from Walmart or Walgreens or whatever.
Perfect. I'm excited to show up with my coach bag and like an ice chest too.
Yeah,
that'll be cool.
Funny. Get a wagon to pull everything. First aid kit, all that stuff.
Yes. My last question for you before we finish up, because this is a long episode. I like it. My last question is, which I think you know because I feel like I've seen you like her posts here and there. What's your favorite Kelly Clarkson song?
Oh, you know what? I don't know, to be honest with you.
What?
Because I wasn't... remember, I grew up... I watched Kelly Clarkson on American Idol.
You follow her on Instagram, though,
I do follow her on Instagram.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't always get her in my feed. And then I did see her shout you out. That was cool. Shit. I don't know, because you know what? I wasn't... Like, I'm not saying... It's just that... I listen to all types of music. It's just her, like, when, like, pop and country, I'm not the most well-versed in it. I don't really... The most music I listen to is either rap, heavy metal, or reggae. Like, those are, like, my go-tos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I say rap, I'm talking about, like, anywhere from, like, 90s gangster rap to, like, Post Malone. So
wow.
So, yeah, we're talking, like, all the way back to, like, oh, here's NWA. Sometimes even older than that. Like, I have music on my iTunes from like Grandmaster Flash, Jurassic 5, like
wow,
like rap groups from like the early rap groups, to like some of the newer stuff, and like a lot of the newer stuff I don't understand, so I don't listen to it. So I stay in like a good pocket of music of what I kind of grew up on. But like I said, I do like some I do like some newer stuff. Like 21 Savage isn't bad. I do like some of the Post Malone stuff. I like the Donald Glover, but
do you like Kendrick Lamar?
I like some of Kendrick stuff. But again, grew up at a different time when it was different music. So some of...
Do you like Eminem? Because I love Eminem.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I really like any... Basically, if I can just listen to the music and I realize there's a message behind it,
yes,
I dig it. You know what I mean? But as far as Kelly Clarkson goes, shoot, I couldn't even tell you the last time actually heard it, to be honest. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to break your heart, but
You probably know like Since You've Been Gone, right?
oh yeah, I know that one.
Yeah.
But there was another one that she did that's really slow.
Like an older one?
I think it's an older one.
Because of You?
Yeah.
Because of You.
Yeah. That one, like where she gets really big on it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And that's where like I said, I watched her perform on American Idol, which was
like you watched?
Like I watched
2002 you watched?
Yeah, because my sister was all about American Idol. So I'd get home from school or I'd get home from work or whatever. She's like, well, American Idol's on. Oh, okay.
That's
so I'd like
crazy.
sit there at the table like eating and she's watching American Idol. I was like, all right, cool.
Wow.
But yeah, so I remember her performing there, but that's when was it Because of You? I think that's where I realized like how big her voice could really be. And I was like, holy shit, who the fuck is that? But at the same time, like Miley Cyrus, right?
Yeah.
I get laughed at because I listen to I like her cover songs. My wife laughed at me. She's like, you really listen to Miley Cyrus? I was like, have you not heard Nothing Else Matters?
Wow.
Have you seen her cover with that? She has that cover with, it's like Elton John and Robert Trujillo. Yeah. And everything. Like she does very well. Like her rock star covers are done very well. But then like I laugh because some people are like, oh, I like, what is that song? Like my cousin loves that song Malibu because it's like a very chill vibe. But like when you hear her go off in like Wrecking Ball, I was just like, holy shit. Like I didn't know she can do that. Like I'm used to seeing like Hannah Montana, Miley Cyrus. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, she went crazy. Like she can after sing. All this stuff. I was like, no. Then like I see her doing all these like the Metallica cover and she does Stevie Nicks and she does like all these other covers. I was like, no, she's not crazy.
Zombie and Heart of Glass.
Zombie.
Heart of Glass is good.
I was like, she's not crazy. She's a fucking rock star. That's all it is. It's like her dad was a country star. She's a rock star. That's all it is. She's not crazy. She's just a rock star, man. Yeah. Like she's living her best life as a rock star. Like being like this ambassador for her movement and all that other stuff. Like
her rock album is really good if you listen to it.
I haven't. I've seen a bunch of covers. Really I do think she did very good with Zombie, but the Zombie cover that I love the most is from Bad Wolves. Have you seen? Do you know who Bad Wolves is?
I know who they are. I haven't heard that version though.
It's an awesome version. I think it's from 2018. Okay. They dropped it in 2018. They do a very good job, and the history of the song says that the lead singer of the Cranberries was supposed to redo her vocals for them on that song. Oh. The day before, because they had already cut the song, sent it to her to get an approval, I think, and she loved it, but she said she wanted the vocals on it, and unfortunately, the day before she was supposed to go do the vocals is when she passed away. That's what I mean. That's what I've seen on whatever. Like, that's what they've said in interviews and stuff. But yeah, their version of Zombie is probably my favorite cover, as far as that song goes. But there's other people out there that do other covers of other songs. But I think the way they put their arrangement together for that song, and the music video is phenomenal. It's very basic, very simple, but I think it's done very well. I think so. But that Zombie one's very good. But when like Miley's cover of like Jolene is very good. Yes. But my mom used to listen to Dolly Parton when I was a kid. Wow. Right. So I knew who Dolly Parton was. So it was but yeah, I love when people do covers and they're done right. It's awesome. But obviously because there's some people that done covers that are better than originals. But there's because there's a few of them out there. Yeah. Like Five Finger Death Punch does a couple covers of a couple songs that I really like. Yeah. So does Shine Down. They do a couple covers of a couple older songs that I like, and they do very well. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, did you know that Kelly on her show, she covers a song every single episode?
You know what? I did hear that, but I haven't. I don't get a chance. I don't get a chance to like watch a show all the time. Yeah. Every time like she has a guest on that I like, I'll like YouTube that clip. Yeah. Like when she had Joe Coy on, hilarious. Yes. But
yeah. Well,
But
every episode she does a cover, and then everyone's been wanting them recorded. So the other day she released an EP called Karaoke, and it's just 6 covers.
that's funny, karaoke.
She did a cover of Radiohead, "Fake Plastic Trees," one of my favorite songs. Her version, insane.
Okay.
So she's done more covers than her own original songs.
Radiohead songs are hard to do.
I know. I'm very picky on who
So
covers them.
Radiohead songs are hard to do. Alice in Chains songs are hard to do, but I've heard some people do them. And then I've heard some people redo like a couple of Tupac songs, and they've done them a little different.
Really?
Yeah. Doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does. But, that comes with everything.
Wow.
Maybe next time we'll come and talk about music. I don't know.
I was going to say, I didn't know you were so into music. We got to talk about it more next time.
I do. Oh, yeah. Music, movies. I spent a lot of time by myself as a kid. I was the only boy out of 3 kids. I'm the youngest, and I'm the only boy. Next door, my cousins, growing up, I had my cousins next door. They had like 7 kids. There was like 3 boys, 6 girls, or whatever the hell it was. I don't remember.
No, I'm the opposite. I'm the oldest and the only boy.
Yeah. So, when at home, a lot of times it was just me either listening to music or watching movies, and even older movies. I did grow up, spend a lot of time with my grandparents and my godparents. So, like one of my grandmothers, she loved her old Western movies and her old Mexican movies, and we'd watch a lot of those. So, like if you like old Westerns, we would sit and watch together. And my mom, my other grandmother, same thing. She liked watching a lot of her shows, or even like the Golden Girls. Watched a lot of the Golden Girls growing up. Kind of weird, but it was funny. Then I realized as I get older, that was probably inappropriate for me to watch because there was a lot of inappropriate stuff being said in those.
Yeah.
But like I'm like 5 years old watching the Golden Girls and they're making like sexual innuendos, and I'm just like thinking about it now, like, Grandma, what were you doing, man? Like,
yeah. God. Okay, let's finish up because we're deep in there. Thank you again.
We can do another one
Thank
if you want.
Thank you again for coming on, AJ.
Yeah, man, love it, appreciate it. Like I said, if I wasn't gonna be on this season, man, I was about to question some things, man. No, I'm just kidding. This is fun. Like I said, if you if you want, I'll come back. I don't give a damn.
Of course.
We can talk about all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, appreciate it. Glad I'm a lot of your past guests I've seen are great people. Some which I've coached in the past.
Yes.
Which is also awesome. But yeah, man, I enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. I'll see y'all next week. Thank you. Bye.